So we are merely days away from 2019, and obviously with me starting this channel in 2018, about midway through, it's been interesting to see how fast this channel has grown in that space of time. Only about 5 months and we've already reached the 100 subscriber goal, and I just want to thank you all so much for watching my videos, for liking, subscribing, and just enjoying what I talk about here on this channel, and just talking about movies with me. My whole goal with this channel was to create an awesome film community, to talk to each other so we can all talk about some awesome movies, and it's been great to see that, and I can't wait to see it grow some more as we move into 2019. But of course, we can't leave this year without looking back and us discussing my personal top 15 best films of 2018. Just a few things to mention up top. For one, please remember that this is all in my personal opinion. This is not going to be necessarily the absolute best films in 2018, but these were my personal favourites. Also, I have not seen every single film that came out this year, so if the film that you were looking for is not on this list, I may not have seen it, and that may be the reason why it's not on this list. And also, third thing to remember is that on this channel, given the fact I am a UK-based movie review channel, I do stick to UK release dates. So therefore, a lot of the more Oscar-worthy films that you may see are not actually on this list because they haven't come out here yet and I haven't seen them. And also there might be a couple of films that technically were 2017 releases but were 2018 here, and that's why I've got them on this list. So like for example, if I could, I would put Green Book at number 1 on this list. Green Book is amazing, but it doesn't actually come out till February here. I just had the chance to see it early. So, now we have all the kinks ironed out. Let's jump into my personal top 15 films of 2018. Starting off at number 15, we have Black Panther, the Marvel film that kicked us off this year, and I thought Black Panther was a fantastic achievement, not only due to the diversity of the film and showing this huge black cast all on screen together was not only a true achievement for the culture, but it was just really nice to see how this film was able to, accept not only that culture, but everyone else was able to buy into that culture. It was really well done, and I think the film itself is really well written, it's really well filmed. Although the third act isn't the best due to the overall CGI overuse, I still feel like the film has a fantastic first and second act, and the themes that the movie deals with are great, and all the performances are fantastic, especially Michael B. Jordan as the villain Eric Killmonger. He was phenomenal in this film, and I really loved Killmonger as a villain in general because he was actually kind of right. And I think all of these elements really show that Black Panther is one of the best films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I had an absolute blast watching it. In at number 14, we have the film I saw first in 2018, and that is Molly's Game. Molly's Game was excellent. I was so excited about this film due to the fact that this was Aaron Sorkin's directorial debut. Aaron Sorkin is a fantastic writer who's written some brilliant films throughout his filmography, so to see him finally step up to the director's chair was something that I was very excited to see. Plus, he had Jessica Chastain in tow as the lead actress, who I'm also a huge fan of, and this film was a great story filled with great performances. I loved everything about this movie, the pacing, the style. It was a really awesome story and just a really nice movie to fall into and to follow along with. In at number 13, we have 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Now, this film had a lot of Oscar buzz, and obviously we did see it did win a lot, especially in the acting categories. I thought this film had a really interesting story, something that was very basic on paper, but actually came across a lot more substantial on screen. The performances, Frances McDormand, who never lets us down, was phenomenal in this movie, and Sam Rockwell, he deserved all the awards he got for this movie. Sam Rockwell knocks it out of the park here, and this movie was just a really interesting film that really was a character study on this specific part of the world and the specific part of the US that it was focused on, and really showed these characters, and this really was able to create a living, breathing world inside of this really small little community of Missouri. In at number 12, we have Revenge. Now, I actually saw this movie for the first time on Blu-ray. I didn't actually catch this movie in the cinemas. It just didn't come out anywhere around here. That's the perks of living in a place about a bit further out from a major city. But I feel like this was a really, really well-made film. It was so well shot. It was vibrant. It was colourful. The colour grading was absolutely astonishing in this movie. It really took my breath away in so many scenes. It was violent. It was brutal. It was kind of like a female Mad Max, but it was really, really awesome. This very much revenge tale. This is also a French movie as well, which, I was experimenting a little bit there, dipping my toes into some foreign film, and I thought that this film just completely took me by surprise. It was so, it was a blast. It's a really short movie as well, but it's just one of those films that you watch it and it just hits you so much with so much impact, and you just walk away from it going, that was kick-ass. In at number 11, we have American Animals, possibly one of the most underrated films of the year. This was a true story about a group of college kids who were able to actually steal a piece of art and actually commit a pretty major crime in the process. What really impressed me about this movie was not only the performances from our main leads, but we also had little parts of interviews cut into the movie from the real people involved in the robbery, and that was a really interesting take because I didn't think that was going to work in this movie. I thought it may have broke the immersion. But if you watch this movie a bit more as in the style of a documentary, it actually works a lot better. And I think that having the real people there added a lot more impact to the movie and a lot more impact to the story and their characters than what it would have done otherwise. And American Animals was just an absolute blast, a really good true story, and fantastic performances all around. Coming in at number 10, we have Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs. Isle of Dogs was fantastic. I love this film. There is so much to love here. All the performances, all the voice cast was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you just have to look in the trailer and they have that massive shot at the end with all the cast members on it, and you just have to get involved with all that. It's just beautiful to see that. Even like down to Courtney B. Vance, narrating the film was really interesting. The art style is astonishing. Obviously, it does have that very nice Wes Anderson sheen across it, and it's just a really visually interesting movie for your eyes to watch. And seeing these characters, the story being set in Japan was like a really interesting setting because it's something that we don't see often, especially in the animation field, and seeing that really explored and these different elements of themes and class was really well implemented into this film. And I think this is one of Wes Anderson's best. I think this is possibly the best animated movie of the year. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal and I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. Coming in at number 9, we have the feel-good movie of the year, which is Crazy Rich Asians. This film I heard a lot of buzz about when it first launched in the US, and I was waiting for it to come out here in the UK, and eventually it did, and I was absolutely floored by this movie. This movie isn't particularly, emotionally engaging. It's not particularly, going for these Oscar-worthy moments. This film just wants to make you have a good time at the cinema, and a good time I had. I thought the performances were really nice in this movie. It's just a really sweet film, something that you can pretty much take anybody to. It's a great date movie. It's just one of those films that you can just sit with and just relax and just enjoy, and it is really funny in parts. Obviously, you've got some really good comedic talents in here like Ken Jeong and Awkwafina. You've just got a really well-rounded cast and a really just nice feeling movie. And representation was a big theme in 2018, not only with Black Panther, like I mentioned earlier, but also with the Asian culture getting a lot of representation this year too, and Crazy Rich Asians was a big part of that. And this film was really just a blast to watch, and just one of those nice films that you could settle into. In at number 8, we have The Shape of Water. Now, this film was actually my number 1 when it came out, so it's quite amazing that it's managed to hold on to its number 8 spot all this time later. Now, this film is just beautiful. It's a really nice fairy tale with a nice Guillermo del Toro twist on the side of it. The love story between Sally Hawkins' character and also this fish creature played by Doug Jones is just something that shouldn't work, but you really buy into it thanks to how well it's portrayed. And what made it even more beautiful was the fact that Sally Hawkins' character was a mute, and that's something that, again, could have really sacrificed a lot of drama, but I think the way Sally Hawkins was able to portray it really showed that this character has so much emotion behind of her, and you really got to see behind the eyes of her, and I really appreciated that. Guillermo del Toro's direction, the score is absolutely just mesmerizing in this movie. The visuals are great. Taking place in the 40s was a really smart decision, and I really enjoyed all of the elements coming together to make this really nice fairy tale story that is very different to anything else you've seen before. Coming in at number 7 is, I believe, the most underrated film in such a long time, and that is Brad's Status. Now, a lot of you probably haven't even heard of this movie, but this was just a pure blast for me. I had my eye on this movie for a long time, and I really had to search this one out too. This was a really lovely film, which really deals with a lot of issues that everybody deals with on a day-to-day basis, with anxiety, worrying about if you've done enough in your life in comparison to other people you know, and are they doing okay? Like, it's all about mental health, it's all about what you're doing with your life, and even if you're doing perfectly fine, in your mind you probably don't think you are. And it's those sort of things that are very small issues, but stuff that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis. We have Ben Stiller in this movie giving his greatest performance he's ever given. And this is just a really real movie. And not only that, but it's funny, it's heartfelt, it's true to life, and I really adored this film. It's just, again, I've had my eye on it for a long time. I had to go search it out, and I'm so glad I did. And you should definitely all do it too. It's on Netflix now here in the UK. I don't know if it's on Netflix in the US, but it is in the UK. So if you're from the UK, you're watching this, you have not seen this movie, please do yourself a favor and do that. Look at Brad's Status on Netflix. It is there waiting for you, and you are just going to be floored by the film as I was. In at number 6, we have Black Klansman. Black Klansman was a really fantastic film that really showed an interesting story that I had never heard of. I've been very interested in learning about the KKK as I was growing up, especially in my last few years of high school, learning about them. So to finally have a film about them was actually really interesting. Although the film's not necessarily about the KKK, the fact that we have a story about a black man who was able to infiltrate the KKK, I found to be incredibly intriguing. Obviously, we have Spike Lee directing the movie. Spike Lee is always able to provoke some really awesome messages, and he does that in this movie. Although I feel like the last sort of 2 minutes of the film do kind of go a bit too over the top in terms of the emotion. It kind of felt a little bit out of place. I still think what this movie was going for was really important, and it showed it. This movie, you know, while it is set in the 60s, it does show that it's incredibly timely and incredibly fitting to what we have and the issues we are dealing with today. And I think that that movie is a really special one, especially with Adam Driver in there, who's fantastic, John David Washington, who's also brilliant in this movie, and also we have Topher Grace as David Duke, giving a really disgustingly awesome performance as David Duke himself. And I just thought that this movie was a true standout and something I really enjoyed. And when I look back on this year, this is definitely one that stands out to me the most. In at number 5, we have Searching. This was a great little film. I was so blown away by this movie, and I didn't expect anything from it. I kind of thought, okay, they're using the same techniques they use in the Friend Request movies. That's not a great start. But this movie does what Friend Request should do. The way that they use technology to tell this story, it's not just from a computer screen. We also see stuff from phones. We see stuff from like news footage, security cameras, things like that. It's purely told through technology. There's not a single proper camera used in this movie, which I think is a true tremendous feat, and I loved all of it. Just watching this movie alone is fascinating. It's a really interesting movie to watch because your eyes are dotting all over the screen, just looking at all these different elements and looking at all these different areas. It's really, like I say, just an interesting movie to watch from a filmmaking standpoint. And then you have John Cho, who really has proven himself as a leading man in this film. You know, John Cho, I mean, I knew him from Star Trek, but I didn't really think he had anything more than that. But he really proved himself here. And not only that, but this film had a great story that really left me shocked and thrilled. And I was completely engrossed in this film. And what really sticks with me above all else is when I walked out of Searching, I said to myself, that is the reason I love cinema. In at number 4, we have Avengers Infinity War. I'm surprised this isn't higher up, to be honest, but I thought that this movie was a brilliant conclusion to what we've been building towards. Obviously, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is one of the most beautiful creations in the history of cinema, and seeing how it's grown from starting with one film in 2008 with Iron Man, growing up to now in 2018 with Avengers Infinity War, it was all building to Thanos coming to Earth and claiming his reign, and claiming his reign he did. And this film was just a visual masterpiece to look at. It was beautiful. The way it was able to bring together all of these characters is truly commendable. I think the Russo brothers don't actually get enough attention for what they've done here, because this was something that was incredibly tricky to do. This movie really shouldn't work, but the fact that it does is an achievement within itself, and the fact that it is able to hold together, it's even better. This movie brought together the Avengers. We had the first crossover with the Guardians of the Galaxy. We had Spider-Man, Black Panther, Doctor Strange. They were all in this film. And of course, Josh Brolin being the true standout with this movie as Thanos. He was just groundbreaking in this film. I can't wait to see what they do with him in Avengers Endgame, because I feel like his character is so unique and easily the best villain of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the way that this movie took risks, this movie had balls, and I really respect it for that. And this was just a true cinematic experience. This is this, you know, when you look back at 2018 and you look at like which film was like the biggest cinematic experience, it was definitely Avengers Infinity War. It was a true experience, and I loved every moment of it. In at number 3, we have First Man. Now, First Man is something that has been a bit of a controversial one since it's come out. It was very much anticipated going into it because it was Damien Chazelle, who of course is the director of Whiplash and La La Land, and I was very excited about it as well. This movie didn't do too well, which I am really sad about, because I thought this movie was bloody brilliant. It was a really realistic depiction of the space race, and I was really impressed by that, especially because the camera work alone is one of the things that will sell you on this movie, because when you go into it, it's pretty much all filmed on a handheld cam, which is incredibly impressive. And the fact that you have these scenes, especially in the Gemini test launch, like my body never actually adjusted and my eyes never adjusted back to normal after that scene, and that was only about an hour and a half in, and that was incredibly it was disorientating, but I kind of loved it. And I think that that film just shows that, you know, this immersion level is still there in cinema today. Ryan Gosling gives a great performance as Neil Armstrong. Some people have criticised it. People have said it's very, you know, very withdrawn. But apparently that is what Neil Armstrong was like. And if he's just being true to the man, you can't really complain about that. And on top of that, just some of the really nice, sweet moments. You know, the score in this movie is just bellowing, especially the moment when they finally land on the moon is just a amazing moment. Especially if you watch this movie in IMAX, it was something else. And I think First Man definitely deserves more. I think this movie is quite underrated. I don't think this movie is getting the attention it deserves. First Man was a really good cinematic achievement, and though it's my least favourite Damien Chazelle movie, that's not saying it's bad in any way. I think this movie is fantastic. It just doesn't, for me personally, I prefer Whiplash and La La Land to this movie. But I still adored First Man. I think this is a great film, and I really think if you haven't seen this movie, or if you've been on the fence, definitely check this one out. In at number 2, we have A Star Is Born. Now, I was so convinced this movie was going to be number 1, but at the end, just something snuck in right at the end. But for me, A Star Is Born was a beautifully told film. Bradley Cooper, in his directorial debut, really did a fantastic job handling this film, and also his performance is really fantastic. This is definitely the best performance I've ever seen from Bradley Cooper. Mix that in with Lady Gaga bringing in her first appearance into film, and she was also brilliant in this movie too. And them two together were a powerhouse. The music is phenomenal. I've been listening to the soundtrack ever since I saw this film. Shallow is a great song, and I can't wait to see where that goes. I'm very interested to see if that will get some Oscar attention. I really hope it does, because it definitely deserves it. And I feel like that this film just had so much going for it, and it really was able to pull through. The ending was shocking, and while this is the 4th iteration of A Star Is Born, I'd never seen any of the previous versions. So for me, this movie was something new and something fresh, and I loved all of it. I think this is just a really well-made movie, and like I say, for a directorial debut to come out this well, I think it's a massive achievement on Bradley Cooper's part, and I loved everything about A Star Is Born. I've seen it twice in the cinema. I cannot wait to see it again. I'm going to be watching that 4K many, many times. Now, before we jump into my number 1 pick, I'd just like to go through some honourable mentions which I have here on my phone. I would like to shout out Love, Simon, Beautiful Boy, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Widows, Bad Times at the El Royale, The Hate You Give, and Mission Impossible Fallout. They were movies that I really wanted to put on this list, but I just couldn't. They just missed out on the top 15, but those were also some fantastic movies that were real standouts for me in 2018. But here we have it, my number 1. This may be controversial. I was kind of debating whether to put this at number 1, but in the end, looking back at this year, there was no other movie that provoked this much emotion. There was no other film that really made me feel the way that I felt in this movie. There was no other film this year that really made me just get lost in the screen. And that movie was Bumblebee. Bumblebee, to me, is an incredibly special film. This movie means a lot to me, and I'm actually recording this video after my second viewing of Bumblebee. It's just an incredible film for me. You know, as a huge Transformers fan, someone who grew up with Transformers as a kid, like everybody has that thing they grew up with as a kid. For me, it was Transformers, and even though I like the other Michael Bay directed Transformers films from a guilty pleasure standpoint, I love this movie genuinely. I think this is a great film. And whether you like Transformers or not, I think this is a great film in its own right. It's a really awesome girl and the dog story. Bumblebee is a great character in this movie. Haley Steinfeld gives the performance of her career so far. I think this movie is really going to launch her into stardom. This and Spider-Verse is really going to launch her. And mix that with John Cena, who's lovably over the top in this movie. Great villains in the form of Shatter and Dropkick. Blitzwing shows up in this movie. The Cybertron scenes are outstanding. Just seeing Soundwave and hearing him talk was just one of those moments that blew my mind. Optimus Prime showing up, of course, voiced by Peter Cullen. Just seeing all of these elements got me so emotional, and I cried many, many times watching this movie, just purely down from a fan's perspective. I loved all of it, and I think that this film, you know, it's not doing that well, and it's a real shame because obviously the reputation of this brand has been so tarnished over the years that people are not going to see Bumblebee and they're not giving it a chance, and it's such a shame when it's such a good movie. And I know that a lot of people are going to say I'm overreacting about this and I'm fanboying over this movie, and that is kind of true. But at the end of the day, this is my personal top 15 list, and like I say, there's no other movie I adored more this year than Bumblebee, so I had to give my number 1 spot for my favourite movie of 2018 to Bumblebee. So what did you guys think about my list? And make sure you let me know your list in the comment section down below. Of course, make sure we are all respecting each other's opinions, as we are all going to be different, we're all going to differ. And I'd also just like to end this video by saying thank you all for watching this channel this year. This is the final video for 2018, so I'd like to thank you all for watching, continuing to watch, and also once again thank you all for 100 subscribers before the end of the year. That was an amazing little gift at the end of the year to have before we go into 2019. If you guys like this video, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a video. There's going to be so many more reviews coming in 2019 as we move into Oscar season here in the UK. It's going to be very, very exciting. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. It'll help me out a lot. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a video from me. And as always, if you want to see more movie reviews, make sure you do subscribe. And I hope to see you guys again in my next video.